Welcome to a new tutorial of Halling dancing. My name is Hallgrim Hansegård and I'm a choreographer in FRIKAR dance company. This tutorial is for the Myretrillkastet, which is a combination I did in 2005 while attending the So You Think You Can Dance. That was the first time I performed this combination trick, but it's made up from Myretrillen, a pirouette, and the roundhouse kick, rundkastet. And first a little bit about Myretrillen. When I grew up as a Halling dancer, I was very fond of Halling. I really love it, but sometimes I felt that the Halling dancing was a bit more poor than, for example, the break dancing and other traditions. So I really wanted to enrich my own tradition and find out what we could actually find in our history. So I sat down with my main master, Knut Steinsrud, born in 1921, in his living room, and I asked him about tricks that he didn't see after the Second World War. And then there was especially one trick who came to his mind, and it was Myretrillen. It's a pirouette named after the great dancer from the 1800s, Niels S. Garvikmyren. And this trick is, you really need the sensibility in your ankle work. So like in our pirouette technique in folk dancing, we are always adjusting. It's almost like Mahatma Gandhi is saying that the human being is not made for balance. It's always trying to retain balance, and that's how we actually walk. We are always falling. So our technique is based on always adjusting with the ankles and the calves, how tight our heel is going towards the floor. So we are using a lot of strength there. So we are not, like in ballet, trying to reach like a locked layer where we have perfect balance. So that's also why we get very nerdy on the floor and the friction and so on. And for example, a little trick here on the shoes here, I have white tape on my soles to make it more slippery, because this floor is pretty sticky. So Myretrillen had another name in the 1880s we have got to know through history, and it was the Krakatoa's turn, which was named after a big eruption, volcanic eruption, close to Sumatra in Asia, which threw red sand to our country actually as well. So the sky was red, they say. Myretrillen was probably a little bit out of tradition for a while after the Second World War. The great Halling dance historian Gulli Kirkevold, he wrote that there were a lot of dancers being afraid of using the trick because they didn't want to lose points in the competitions. So, do you want to learn Myretrillen? Here it's kind of how it looks. So it's a pirouette, which is very similar to the ice skating pirouette, the screwdriver or the körketrekkar. And I try to keep my core very fixed, and then I work very much with the ankles and the calves to stabilize. So try to avoid this with the hands, this wiggling. And I take energy from the top and bring down. But first, some exercises that you could practice at home to prepare your knees to actually endure this. We have one exercise here, which is, let's see, I'm balancing and I can go a bit up and down. And then we have this that I use counterweight and I go slowly down into the floor. And now with both legs. And I regain my balance here. So then we have this kind of practice. Then I get used to having weight on one leg. And we also have the kruking, which is an old, very old dancing move that we can see on Scandinavian rock carvings from the Bronze Age. It looks like this. Yeah, and that's really good strength training also for the leg. And then we have røyskattfelle, link strap, which looks a bit like this. The heel is not in the floor now. And I press up again on toe. You could practice it as a pistol squat with the heel in the floor. That's kind of easier. And then we have another helping exercise, which looks like this. Going with straight leg, and I could cross the floor with each second leg. Yeah. Whew. I can feel this. So then, there's one version of Myretrillen which goes down and into a fish jump. And that's something that I started with while getting a bit bored off stage on Per Gynt at Gårå in 2006, I think. But it's based on old description of kind of a myretrill to backspin while the legs are going in and out in the rhythm of the music and ending with a back fish jump. So here's my little version of that. Yes. And whenever you are to lose your balance, you can just stop your upper body and the legs are still turning. And I go down with my head. I put with my hands, and the head I put closer to my body. So my fingers get under my shoulder for the push. Well, I could also try this trick by Johan Sevaldsen from, I would think it's probably from the early 1900s. And Gulli Kirkevold describes that not many people managed to do it. So let's try. Yeah, the floor is not slippery enough here, so I finished my backspin pretty early. So back to the straight Myretrillen. Gulli Kirkevold described that if you were able to do 3 turns, that was pretty good. So let's try 3 turns from straight here and see. Okay, so we are getting warm, and now I could start to add the rundkast, the roundhouse kick to it, but it means that I have to really control the rotation here. And some of us could get down touching the floor with a swinging leg, which is not so good. I know somebody have pulled it up with their hands, actually, as a kind of advice to that. For me, it helps a lot to get a rest between my thigh and my leg here. It's not something that everybody has anatomy to do, but it helps to take the hip forward here and really reach with your fingers. So that was some advices on Myretrillen. Now we are going to do the roundhouse kick, and we will put it together afterwards. Now we are ready for rundkastet, the roundhouse kick, and it's a pretty advanced acrobatic trick because the legs are not together, and we start straight up and then we change the axis of the rotation in the air. Maybe we could think almost like we are a pencil, and then the head is here and the legs here, and first it's important to go straight up with the energy through the back. Straight up, and then the head goes backwards. And then the legs goes like a cone around here. Or from this angle, straight up and head back, and the legs goes around and you land. The roundhouse kick is a really old move. We don't know really how old, but one of the early descriptions are from the late 1700s. It's about the cowgirl Åse Rime. She's looking after her cows, but she has also a baby, and someone steals her cows. She has to find a babysitter, and then she tracks down the thief, and he is inside his house, and she is very angry, and she does this roundhouse kick again and again and again outside his door, and while calling him out. And he answers, "I did not dare, because she had like calves like the strongest man." And there are different versions. It was usually done indoor and kicking the ceiling. And outdoor they put maybe a hat or a pocket with money on a stick, and it was the winner was the one managing to kick it down. We know in the 1800s, early 1800s, when they had a little war with Sweden, guys were getting bored in exercises, and then they started to collect money in a pocket hanging on a stick and get some excitement out of that. I'll show you some exercises for the roundhouse kick, and there are different ways of doing it. I'm just revealing my secrets how to do it, and I define my kind of turning point, my pivot point on my leg here. I start with my left in front, and then I use my arms almost like a helicopter to pull me up. And you see that my arms, they are left behind, kind of ready charged for the big explosion. So, yeah, I'm going with my left shoulder. And I'm turning only a half round or a little bit more. And I'm not looking at the target while kicking it. And that's because I'm trusting so much my practice that I know I will probably hit it anyway. And actually, when I'm doing it on stage, very often I have lamps into my eyes and it's really difficult to see the hat that I'm going to kick. So then it's better to calculate a little bit, and then from here I know that I'm in the right position. So that was that. And then I could almost do Understempla-kast, which means that I land on the first leg I'm kicking with. So, like that. And the idea is to get the hip quite high. I will try a bit higher now. Okay? And the next thing I could do is to kick with the right leg. It's quite hard, but I could bend it, which makes it easier to get around the left leg. Let's try it. Okay, I was landing almost stempla. It means the two legs landing at the same time. So now I could try with a straight right leg as well as a straight left leg. And it means I need even more power. So let's analyze why this happened. My idea before looking into the video is actually that now I'm leading my left leg going, and I'm not kind of doing any piqué here. So it's almost like a barrel now. The next try, I will go up and I will bring my knee a little bit higher here, which means I will get a quicker rotation around myself. Let's try. So, I moved a little bit in my try, and the old heroes, as my mentor Knut Steinsrud told me about, for example, Rønjus Nordtorp from Østre Slidre. He was able to stand on a pole, this kind of poles that you have on each side of your way up to your building. And he was doing this roundhouse kick up, and then he landed on the pole. And they were actually practicing spitting on their fingers and drawing a circle around so they could see the circle on the floor, and then they were practicing to land well inside the circle. So, now are you ready for kicking the hat? Okay, let's get the hat. So, I personally think that a good Halling dancer should be able to kick a hat which is as high as you can easily reach with your fingers. And because we are of different heights, and just counting the centimeters of height that we can kick is maybe not so relevant. But now I will try this one and see how my shape is today. Okay, it's fine actually. And there are different kind of problems with the hat kicking that we could look into. I see both beginners, they are not so eager to get the first leg high up. So actually trying with a much lower hat and kick it with the first leg instead of the second leg is a nice practice. You could even have two hats, one closer and higher and one more distanced and lower. And try to kick both, which is of course very difficult, but it practices to raise your leg. And another one is that you get this sitting technique like this one. And it means that the hip is going down. The hip is going down before you reach the top of your height. And one exercise for managing to kick earlier in your jump is to, when you get close to the highest, that you twist your kicking leg inwards, so it's a turn in the hip, which also accelerates the rotation a bit. And when I practice one detail at a time, not a lot of tips. So now I will focus on turning in. Let's see. So you see the kick becomes a bit more powerful and more content than before. And then we have different ways to enter the hat. My mentors, especially Knut Steinsrud, talked almost like being a snake, to just be discreet going in and then kick it and dance further as nothing happened. Which is something that I like very much in the art of Hallgrim dancing, instead of this kind of athlete setup. So now I will try to dance in with the hærrulla. Let's see. And I go to double swipen afterwards. And end it with a little korketrekker. And it can be pretty impressive if you manage to do a whole circle of the floor with whirling into the hat. If you want a bit more control, but still keeping the rhythm and the groove, you could do it a little bit like this, using this slinky step. And while landing, it's a pretty hard landing, and makes a lot of sound. It's actually maybe the one move of Hallgrim dancing marking the rhythm in the hardest way possible. So for me, it's really important to land on the rhythm of the music. And the jump lasts for more than one count for, I think, everybody. So either I attack with my jump a little bit earlier than the beat in the rhythm, or I do it later. So now I will show you the two ways that I do it while entering in a dance. So let's see. So here I attacked. It's almost like walking down, 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 down. And we could also look a little bit into the lazy version, where I go later into it. So. And here, if I'm walking, I can mark it like this. Yeah, so I'm waiting a little bit, and then I have to go even quicker in the jump itself, which creates energy that I like. Another tip that I have for the roundhouse kicking is to go a little bit diagonally into the hat instead of coming from straight on, perpendicular on it. And that's why, because when I come here and I lay down, my legs are going in this direction. But if I'm coming from here, my legs goes probably more passing the hat, and the hat is bigger that direction than this direction. So now we have been practicing the roundhouse kicking, the rundkast, and before that we practiced myretrillen. Now we could put it together as myretrillkastet. And it's hard to calculate how close I'm doing the pirouette, but I will try. I haven't tried for years now because I have been injured. But for example, this task or exercise has brought me back to a strength around the knees, which makes it possible for me to try now. So now I'm laying back too early in the jump. I should go straight up, and then when I'm in the air, I should lay back. Thank you for joining me on this tutorial. And if you want more tutorials from FRIKAR, please follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And give us comments on what kind of tutorials that you would like. What kind of style, content, and how we edit it. Will be interesting. Have a good day.